So Cece is not doing great, as you can see. She's on rank 10, down at the bottom of my current leaderboard, with a win rate of 20% from 105 games, which means she has been kinda tested. She's really gotten a chance to prove herself in top 16 tournament games, and once she's gotten there, she hasn't performed. Now the normal average win rate is 25% because every single game you see from this leaderboard here has one winner and 3 losers, which means that you're always going to have an average middle ground of 25%. She's basically -5 to the average. If you actually compare that to Ral Moonsage Mage, he's at 25.6, so he's in the middle ground. And if we go to the top, we have Kinnan currently at spot 1 with a 28.1% win rate from 199 games. So Kinnan has really been making a lot of matches and performed quite well in them. And if you compare Kinnan's win rate to Sisay, the difference is 8%. Then if we go to my power ranking system that is actually following the same kind of stats, but in a different method, she's at rank 15. This can actually track a little bit more than just commanders, it tracks deck lists. So there are more deck lists that can enter into this, and difference from the top, 81.49%. So she's quite far down. On the top of this leaderboard we have Rog Thrasius with Cradle and second Kinnan Bounder Prodigy, where Kinnan in orange text percent difference from the top has 96.10%. So Kinnan is kind of close to the top performing commander decklist, while Cece is definitely far down in the struggling area, you could say. But why is this? Isn't Cece performing great? I've said so in lots of different videos. I've been showcasing data where Cece is doing good, and now suddenly I'm saying she's doing bad? Can this Mons never make up his mind? So we have Cece right here, and if we look here at conversion rate, just above my head, she has 20.61%, which actually mirrors almost the 25% win rate. However, they are not identical numbers, they represent different things. This is Kinnan Bounder's Prodigy's conversion rate at 18.04%. You can't really see Kinnan. If I scroll up, here you see we're looking at Kinnan now, and he has a lower conversion rate compared to Cece. This is Rogsai, a dominating boogeyman of the format, really well performing with a conversion rate of 21.61, which is kinda equal to Cece, a little bit better but still kinda close. Now we're cooking. So here we have Blue Farm, Tymna Krom with a conversion rate of 25.59, which is also kinda why people are saying it's the best commander inside the entire format. This is a lot stronger conversion rate compared to Cece. Here we have Etali on 18.54, which means that Etali's conversion rate is lower than Cece. In other words, Cece's conversion rate is actually kinda good. She's doing good. However, conversion rate and my win rate are actually tracking two different things. You see, conversion rate directly means what percentage chance she gets into a top 16 position. So if you enter with Cece into a tournament and she gets into a top 16, that is a hit. If she doesn't get into top 16, that is a fail. So what you see here is that if you pick Cece and you bring her to a tournament, you have a 20.61% chance of getting into top 16. Which means that when we look at Kinnan, he has an 18% chance of getting into top 16. So you have a higher chance of getting into top 16 with Cece compared to Kinnan. But my leaderboard here is tracking the performance inside only top 16. Which means that once Kinnan is inside top 16, he has a 28.1% win rate, where Cece has a 20% win rate, and yeah, performs worse. So this is super strange. It's like one commander is good at getting into top 16, the other is weaker at getting into top 16, but the commander that is bad at getting into top 16 performs better inside top 16, where Sisay is performing worse. This doesn't make any sense. Actually, it does. So here we actually have a tournament with 75 players, TM Circuit Act 7 Climate Crash, where Sisay actually won, versus 2 different Kingdom players. So congratulations to Matthew E. Robbins for winning. He actually has 4 wins, 2 losses and 1 draw, so he performed really good inside this tournament. Sisay do win now and then. It's just that even though we're showcasing a victory for Sisay here, Keenan usually wins a little bit more frequently. However, if we actually look around inside here and we scroll... No, well, let's begin with only top 16, because that's what we want to focus on. So we have Cece up there in the top, then we have Blue Farm, Sisay, Blue Farm, Rogsai, Rogfras, Krick, Kefka, Magda, Iron Man for some reason. Well, sometimes Iron Man gets in there, or Casual Dex gets in there. Sorry for calling you casual. Then we have Rogsai, we have Gwenom, we have more Sisay, then we have the 2 Kinans and a 5-colored 2 CMC commander deck. If we actually start to scroll down outside 16, we start to see fringer stuff. Now we're also going to see the more typical stuff, like here's an okay, so this Itali actually didn't participate in the tournament. Neither did this Tymna Dargo either. Sometimes people actually sign up to tournaments like this Tymna Dargo here, and then they don't show up. But they still are added into the entire tournament. So this is not a 75 tournament, 75 player tournament still. But then we have Lumra, Marnius, another Mars didn't participate actually. And then we have Yasharn, we have Sirda, Sirda. Then we have Plagon, some other fringe. Atraxa is kind of fringe. Yuriko, Idris, Elsha. We have the Gitrog monster. We have Celis Rune Knight is also a little bit fringe. Tayam, Sefri, Lofo, the Wise Mothman. My point is this. There's a different metagame. The metagame of getting into top 16 is different than winning inside top 16. That sounds strange. But I've actually talked about this in a different video. What is cEDH, which stands for Tournament EDH basically, where I explain that there's a different metagame inside cEDH, you could say. And one could argue that this video is like trying to prove that older video, and yeah, that could be your takeaway. So what we're looking at now is a different dataset. This is from cEDH YouTube videos that I've watched, and from that, I have seen Sisay being played 104 times, which is kind of equal to the amount of time she's been played inside top 16. And from that, she has 31 wins, which gives her a win rate of 29.8. And I want to emphasize that all of the cEDH YouTube games always has 1 winner and 3 losers. So the average win rate is 25. If you are above 25 here, which Sisay is, that means she's performing better than the total average. She's doing great. In fact, she's even at rank 3 on this leaderboard, which indicates that she's doing pretty good. She's winning pretty good inside cEDH YouTube games. Even better than Kinnan. So Kinnan has a position rank 5 with a win rate of 27.7. So Kinnan is also doing good inside cEDH YouTube games, but Sisay is doing a little bit better. Now on top of this leaderboard we have Rogsai, followed by Etali. And then we have a few commanders that haven't played enough, like Tymna Dargo only has 36 games, so we don't know for a certainty yet. But yeah, you could definitely say that there are a few commanders that are theoretically stronger than Sisay in YouTube games. But still, going down here to this leaderboard, now we're only looking at top 16 games, Cece is still on the rock bottom. Or well, there's definitely gonna be more commanders popping up here once we get more data into this, but Cece isn't like changing the trend. She's staying kinda low in her performance in general. And once again, I truly believe this is because of meta reasons. In my opinion, Sisay, Weatherlight Captain, is a control command. No? Or yes. kinda control, but is something that beats control specifically. You see, a key card in her build, in my opinion, and auto-include is Teferi Time Reveler. Each opponent can cast spells only anytime they could cast a sorcery, and the magic trick is that you can tutor for him in your last opponent's end step with your Sisay, which means that she can put a Grand Abolisher effect into play that people can't counterspell, and that's really good if your opponents are stacked with Force of Wills and other interaction pieces they can use. So something I've noticed a lot in my gameplay videos is that you can sit with Cece and just lean back and relax while your opponents are counterspelling each other while you're slowly building up value. For example, you have things like Tatorataru that is just creating more treasures for you, and then suddenly once you have assembled your victory condition, boom, you activate Cece, find Teferi, and victory. So she's totally built, in my opinion, to prey on heavy counterspell decks, heavy control decks, something that is quite popular inside YouTube cEDH games and quite popular inside trying to get into top 16 tournaments. You see, a lot of players that join tournaments are beginners and have a tendency to play or mulligan towards counterspells, trying to stay alive, playing not to lose instead of playing to win. And when an opponent is playing not to lose, that is something Cece can capitalize on and defeat. Oh yeah, she also has Kutsil now. Your opponents can't cast spells during your turn, so you can activate Cece and put Kutsil into play during your turn and yeah, boom, secured. Great. Legendary Grand Abolisher for you. But I want to show you this. Now, I know it's a little bit jumpy, we're jumping from dataset to dataset, but I think it's really good to have several different datasets that are tracking different metagames. Now we are back at YouTube games. This is YouTube games now, with an average turn of 4.794, which means that on average, YouTube games last for around 4 to 5 turns. But in here, if you remembered, Cece had 31 victories, and here you can see average turn win is at 4.8. So she's winning a little bit slower compared to the total average. But here we have Celia's Rograk. Remember that Celia's Rograk had the highest position in my leaderboard, rank 1, where Cece had 3. Once again, this is on YouTube dataset, games from YouTube, where they have won 25 times with an average turn victory on 2.6. So this commander pair is winning a lot faster than Cece, performing victories before her. In other words, the takeaway is very simple. If Cece and Roxai is sitting down and Cece is lacking tools to interact because she's trying to just build a little bit more value, then Roxai is just going to win out of nowhere on turn 2, 3 or something. Same thing with Etali, also 25 wins with an average turn victory on 3.4. Also, like 1.5 turn faster than Cece. Kinnan, on the other hand, isn't that fast, or well, it's faster than Cece on 4.0. So a very simple takeaway is this: YouTube games allow Cece to perform very well because the average turn count is longer and there are more control cards, more counterspells compared to very cutthroat tournament matches up at the top 16, while also trying to get into top 16 probably contains more counterspell, more control magic, and more people trying to stop opponents compared to once you get into the top. In other words, is Cece good or bad? I don't know. Is Cece performing good in a certain metagame and bad in a different metagame? Yeah, it looks like it. Is Cece recommended for tournaments? Yeah, she gets into top 16 quite well. Like, if you want to get into top 16, she has a conversion rate of 20%. So you have a 20% chance of getting into top 16 if you choose Cece, while Kinnan has an 18% of getting into top 16. On the other hand, once you get into top 16, she doesn't perform that good anymore. If you want to play versus your opponents in your local metagame, in your local game store, and you want to play Cece, you are probably going to perform really well. The more politics you have, the better Sisay probably becomes. In top 16, we can potentially argue that there are less politics compared to a YouTube game or a game with your friends that you know, that you're going to play against again, compared to a game versus random strangers you've never met before, you're probably never going to play against again, and there's money on the line. They are probably going to lie to you. So the chance of politics inside top 16 is theoretically less. But what do you think? One could actually say that this is a video about different metagames and showcasing cEDH a little bit more. Regardless, thank you so much for watching, and I hope you learned something of this video. In any case, I'll see you again in the next one.